You were never meant to survive the system. You were trained to perform inside of it. Most think this only relates to capitalism. But by the end of this video, you will understand that there is no area of your life that the system hasn't shaped. That includes generations of family dynamics. Estrangement did not start with a TikTok trend or modern distractions. It's all built into the system, and it benefits greatly when parents and their children are stuck blaming one another, blinded by the system's conditioning. You were conditioned to call its punishments normal. You were told that working hard was noble. But under the rules of this system, working hard never made anybody free. 3 missed mortgage payments, and you're on the street. But the banks can miss by billions and get a bailout. Oh, that's not a glitch. That is the program. Schools punish curiosity and reward rote memorization. Therapy labels your child's resistance as a problem. When despair hits, you're told, stay positive. When you can't, you find whatever keeps you afloat, and your faithfulness is overlooked more than you're rewarded. And then you're told healing is your burden to bear. Basically, be grateful for the trauma, because more won't come to you than you can handle, right? Everything's working out for you, right? But none of that frees you. It just keeps you trapped, performing. They said it would make you stronger, but that wasn't strength. That was survival. And through the personal development and spiritual movements, survival has been rebranded as adaptation. Adaptability became a measuring stick. And the ones who seem to be winning, they're just better at bending further, more adaptable. It looks good on the outside, but if you saw the cost inside, you'd know better. But this pattern, it isn't new. It's what every generation before you adapted to. Keep adapting, keep surviving. But beneath it all, something else was calling. Something that refused to settle for just survival. Remember those moments right in the middle of something when that quiet unrest rose up in you and you thought, man, this isn't right. Each time you questioned the narrative and saw through the facade, that was Gnosis. Ancient wisdom, your innate knowing whispering beneath the noise. If only you had known never to quiet it over the programming, but you inherited the layers of noise that shushed your knowing. Why wouldn't they want you to pay attention to you? Gnosis, it's that steady low flame inside. The one that still burns no matter how loud the noise gets. That nausea when you betray yourself. The pit in your stomach when you say yes but mean no. That's Gnosis. And there is not a single person on the planet who hasn't experienced it and hushed it. But why? What have we really traded for that knowing? Our Gnosis. Their programming? But it's a huge deception because you would not have chosen it. Instead, you inherited it. The real designers of the programs aren't on the front lines, but you've met their proxies, bureaucrats, title-given puppets, and yes, many in white coats who climb status ladders and are indoctrinated in a way of thinking that reveres credentials over inner knowing. Their programming is thick, and you've been conditioned to defer to it. In this fast-shifting, or dare I say crumbling Western society, notice how we've started to name and pathologize more and more what used to be treated as just human condition, those raw, unavoidable parts of life we all go through. Pain, doubt, relentlessly sometimes, fear, the search of meaning. That used to be seen as natural chapters in the story of being human, guided by Gnosis. Then they weren't broken things to fix. They were simply parts of living. But then gradually, as they wanted more conformity from the people, every part of what was just human was pathologized. Mind, body, and soul. It started with our souls long ago. They couldn't leave us with our own thoughts, so they had to teach us what to think. And then colonized the mind and body. The Bible of psychology has taken root in the West in ways it hasn't in other places around the world. Are people really depressed? Or is the system depressing? And if you haven't been officially diagnosed, you still live inside a world of general anxiety because most of our environment is designed to create baseline anxiousness. Again, who benefits from that? Much of what we call neurodivergent or neurodiversity and attention deficit could be built-in resistance, less adaptable to the system's ways. That resistance is a problem to a system that rules on conformity, and it makes the opposite framing clearer. Neurotypical can mean more susceptible to adaptation. So with every revision of that book, the DSM, more disorders are added. Every year, more diagnoses and more prescriptions. Again, who benefits? Now, this isn't about blaming, and certainly not blaming any parent who followed the experts. This is context. For many parents over the past decades, a child's diagnosis felt like the map to safety. So they followed it. They medicated. They entered a pipeline that often did not free the child. It framed them. It routed them. It quieted their edges. To whose benefit was that? They've built many pipelines, layers that move people through diagnoses, treatment, schools, and systems that reward compliance. Call it the matrix. Call it a maze. The point is the same. The exit isn't outward. The exit is inward. Returning home, shed the layers of their lies and illusions, quiet the noise. Then your origin, your knowing, your gnosis reclaims its place. Let's deepen your grasp on gnosis because it's on full display right now. Today, it's labeled Awakening. The fire running through so many people right now who see through the system's lies. That is gnosis. Awakening happens when gnosis is allowed to burn through the conditioning. It's that ancient knowing you were born with before any hierarchy told you who you were allowed to be. The system can numb it through fear, distraction, and punishment, but it cannot erase it. That ember you've always felt is proof you still have it, even when the world insists it's contrived because it can't be peer-reviewed. Hi, my name is Era. What was just shared and the rest of this video may or may not be about me, but it's probably about you too. From the moment you were born, the programming began. And your parents, your guardian, your village, they were already in it. They loved you, yes, but they were also trained to feed you the system's diet. They taught you rules for survival that mostly kept you surviving inside the system. They passed down beliefs they never thought to question because they accepted them as truth. Even their good intentions were shaped by their own conditioning, and that conditioning was fueled by built-in fears. So when you consider social constructs and disparities, how one is affected differs. Yet the system still works because conditioning shapes the mind across lines. It fills people with boogeyman fears that eventually take shape. Again, working just as the system intended. Why was it easier to believe the system's programming than the gnosis nudges? Shame for being different, especially if you ever voiced it. Doubt about what you really feel or know. Do this enough and it builds invisible cages around your truth, and then walls of guilt for ignoring your truth in favor of obligation to conform. Before you know it, you're locked in a story that isn't even yours. If your parents were honest, they'd admit the system they prepared you for has never been loyal, never been faithful. It was above all self-serving. It always took more than it gave, but because their gnosis had been repressed beyond recognition, they thought the only way to win was to learn to play their game. Maybe you saw their sacrifice and thought it was working. You just had to work even harder. They thought they were giving you the tools to thrive. But in reality, it was moving you further away from your gnosis, away from the quiet, ageless knowing you were born with that would have let you see the illusions the system was crafting so you could steer clear. But this wasn't just your parents' struggle. It's been passed down through many generations. Trauma, compromise, fear, and survival habits have been handed down like family traditions. No parent is innocent in this. No one can claim they were untouched by the system's reach. But there's no blame here either. There is only history and the possibility of breaking the loop, exiting the system. Understanding this lineage of limitation helps you hold compassion for your parents and for yourself, because in this awakening, if you have children, you're going to need it. But you're also not alone in being a parent caught up in the noise. Most are. Neither are you weak for it taking so long to wake up. Some things take time. And right now, look around. There is a collective awakening. So you're the next link in a long chain of remembering who you truly are. If something in you just recognized that, but you're still not sure what it really means to remember, I created something for that. It's called Your Sovereignty Guide. It's a short, potent companion to help you name what's already been yours. You'll find a link to it in the description below. So your conditioning didn't start with you. And your parents, no matter how loving, they were played by the system too. They inherited their programming from their parents, who inherited it from theirs. Each generation was formed into a machine that will never serve them. Even the success stories were simply people who found ways to adapt faster, to bend more, endure more. If you trace it back far enough, you'll see the same root. A system that rewards forgetting who you really are. And if you're honest, hasn't that forgetting cost more than it gave? So what happens when you begin to weigh Gnosis more heavily than programming? You stop passing down chains dressed up as traditions. Because estrangement, it's not a rupture or a failure. It's a torch, a line in the sand saying this cycle ends here. Now let's dig even deeper, because you are not your body. Before you ever had skin, you had Gnosis. You were Gnosis, pure knowing, before you had a name, before race, gender, parents, or culture, before anyone told you who you were supposed to be. The body is just a vessel you navigate in. Did you catch that? Gnosis is what you return to when you lay your body down. That's how ancient the real you is, and why the system has to be so intentional about making sure you're too programmed to notice. Your children are not empty vessels for you to feel. They are ancient wisdom arriving in small bodies. Their Gnosis is still close to the surface. It hasn't yet been buried under decades of adaptation. Your job is not to make them fit the system. Your job is to protect them from the domestication that buries their knowing. Because the moment you start to honor that in them, you begin to remember it in yourself. And that is the beginning of everything. That disconnect you feel, the knot in your chest when life keeps pushing you to be something you're not, that's the space where your true self and the system's program collide. It's a break between who you are beneath the surface and who you've been trained to believe you must be. That friction is where the journey back to origin begins. Over time, you were trained to think the vessel is you, which means you started to identify with everything associated with it, that your thoughts and feelings were all born in this body, in this lifetime, from your date of birth. Gnosis, it's not just a thought or a belief. It is a knowing so deep it bypasses language and logic. It's the memory of who you were before you arrived here, a knowing that holds no agenda, no judgment, no fear. It is that quiet flame inside that can't be erased, only dimmed. Every time you've had that feeling deep inside your bones, this isn't right, or this is not the whole truth, that was it speaking. The tragedy is how quickly it's silenced. So if you forget everything else from this video, remember this. Your Gnosis has never left you. Not in your hardest season, not in the most compromising moments, not even when you chose adaptation over truth. It's been the steady, quiet hum underneath the noise, waiting for you to hear it again. And once you truly hear it, you cannot unhear it. That is the point of no return. That is not just the moment your children will benefit from, but you will be grateful you lived to see. Because the end of hierarchical parenting isn't the collapse of the family. It's the restoration of wholeness, one generation refusing to trade their knowing for someone else's approval. And for many, that's just the price, even when that cost is estrangement. They told you survival was the goal. Bullshit. Survival is what's left when you've traded every truth for their lies. 3 generations is all it takes, and you're soulless. But that ember in your chest, the one that is burning right now, that's your down payment on freedom. This is Remembering with Zara.